Okay, there we go. We're recording now. Awesome. Okay, so I'll just recap really quickly for people who are watching the recording. Linux is operating system like anything else. Linux distros are just different types of Linux distributions that can be used for various purposes based off your needs. So these is a list of like probably the most common and the most basic Linux commands that you're going to be using like all the time when you're running Linux. So CD stands for change directory. So I'll go through these as I'm saying it. So let me switch screens here. Or can you guys see my terminal right now?
No, we can't see it.
You can't see it. Okay. So let me do the full desktop. What about now? Yes. Okay, cool. Awesome. So CD is change directory. So when you're open up a terminal like this, which for those who don't know, it's like on Linux, it's usually on the left-hand bar, or you can just search for it. But it's basically you're dropped into a part of the file system of your operating system. So just like a directory is just like a folder in like Windows or Mac. It's the same exact concept. You can call it a directory, you can call it a folder. It doesn't really matter. It's all the same. Within directory are going to be more directories or more folders or files or whatever you want. So if you want to change a directory, so right now you can actually do a command called pwd, as you see here, the third one, which stands for print working directory. So it'll tell you what folder or what directory you're currently in. So if I do pwd, I'm in the folder /home/John. Right. So that'd be the equivalent in Windows of C:/user/John. It's the same deal. Just in Linux, they do /home. So in Windows, the root directory would be the big C:. In Linux, it's just /, which is the root directory. Right. So that's the current directory we're in, home/John. If we want to change directories, right? So let's first figure out what directory we want to change into. So if I do ls, which will list files here, as you can see here, we can see what files and what directories are in the current directory. So all of these, the ones that are highlighted blue are directories. Everything else are files. So this is a PNG image. This is a .txt file. And the rest, the blue, are all directories. So ls will just list everything inside of the current directory. So these are all inside /home/John. Now, if I want to change directories, right, I want to go into one of these directories, for example, right? Let's say I want to go into the desktop directory. I would do CD and then type in desktop. And you can do tab in Linux in the terminal. It'll autocomplete for you, which is really handy. Trust me, you're going to be using it a lot, so you don't have to type everything out every time. So CD into desktop. And then you can notice here that this changes now, the prompt. So it basically tells you what directory you're currently in. So you don't even have to type pwd. You can type pwd if you want to get the full directory, but you sort of know just based off what the prompt is saying. So now we're in the desktop. If I do ls now to list the files currently in the desktop, there's nothing in there because I have nothing on my desktop. Another thing to note for the ls is most commands in Linux will have something called flags with them, which is basically like extra parameters you can add to it to get more functionality out of the command. So if I cd ... for example, I'm going to cd ... to go back one directory. So if I want to go back to /home/John, I could type this if I wanted to, and that'll take me to the same place. Or I can go backwards a directory by just doing ... right? And that'll take me to the same place. Now for using flags, for ls, for example, if I just type ls, it's just going to print this, right? If I do ls with the -la flag, I'm providing two flags, -l and -a. You can put them together with one dash, just easier that way. And it's going to print out the files, but you notice that something's changed, right? So they've added a bunch of they basically printed out the metadata for it as well. So the date it was last edited, the permissions of it, like who owns it, various other permissions on the file or the directory, and also the size of the file and directory, right? Another thing you notice is that there's a lot more, it seems like there's a lot more files than there were before, right? Because this only has a certain amount. This one seems like way more. It's because if you notice, all the ones that have a dot in front of it were not printed here. And that's the -A flag. The -A flag will show all hidden files as well. Hidden files are all files or directories that have a dot in front of it. So, and the -L will show all this metadata. So if I were to do ls-l without the A, it's going to print exactly like this one, right? The same exact file is just going to print the metadata as well, right? If we do ls just -A, it's going to print similar to this, but it's also going to print all of the hidden files and directories, basically everything with a dot in front of it. And we just put them together, ls-la, to get all the metadata of all the files, including the hidden files. This is a very common command that you'll be using a lot to basically see what you have in your directory. Super popular one. Anyone have any questions on those? Because those are probably some of the most widely used commands in Linux. Okay, cool. So another cool command, just so you guys know, if you guys have like a bunch of output like this and you want to like clear the screen, you just type clear, hit enter, and it'll just go back to like the top and it'll clean your screen for you. Just makes everything look nicer. Another command is going to be the cat command, which basically displays the contents of the file. So I guess to show an example of that, we're going to use a file editor, which, as you can see here, there's a few. The three most popular ones are Nano, Vim, and Vi. Vim and Vi are the same. Vi is just a older, I believe, lighter weight version of Vim. And then Nano is just a different file editor. There's, the whole big debate, I suppose, within the Linux community of which file editor is the best between Vim and Nano. I won't get into that. Choose whatever works for you. Nano's great for when you're just starting off. Yeah, Ben was saying is correct. Some distros have an alias for Vim. Just have Vi as an alias for it. But yeah, Nano is good for beginners because it's pretty much almost like Notepad without the mouse. And Vim is very powerful, and if you get to learn it, you can do it like you can start like typing things like super fast, and there's a whole bunch of shortcuts that you can learn to type really fast. So if you want to like jump into that and just like force yourself to learn it, it can be very valuable in the future, because after like I would say a couple of weeks of like forcing yourself to use it, you'll get like really good at it. But it's up to you. Nano is also just really easy to use if you're just starting out. So we'll go ahead and use Nano just because it's the easiest right now. We're going to do Nano, and we're going to create a file called test.txt, right? So just like this, and it's going to display a nice little, like somewhat of a GUI kind of deal in our terminal. It says the name of the file here, what file editor you're using, and then some commands that Nano uses, right, for like saving and stuff like that. So we're going to start typing to put whatever we want into the file. It's basically just like Notepad. We'll say hello world, right? Now to save it in Nano is going to be Control O. It's going to ask you what you want to name the file. We want ours to be test.txt, so we're just going to hit enter. And then we're going to do Control X to exit. So now if we do ls to list what files we currently have, you'll see test.txt is now there because we just created that file inside of this current directory, right? So now going back to the cat command, which will display the contents of the file, right? We want to see what's inside of this file. We could just do Nano again on it, right? Test.txt, and it'll show us there. But what if we don't want to like go into like a whole GUI thing? We just wanted to spit out the contents of it. We use cat. So we do cat, and then the name of the file that you want to see. So test.txt. And it's going to print out hello world, just like that. Okay, so that's what cat is very useful for, basically just displaying the contents of a file. That's all it does. Another useful one is, let's say for whatever reason, I wanted to create a file, but not have anything in it, right? Like just an empty file. I could do Nano, call this one test2.txt. I could do this and then do Control O, Control X, and that would work. And it would have nothing in it. So if I try to cat that, it would have nothing in it. But What if I didn't want to go into nano with the whole editor stuff? I could use the command called touch. If I do touch test3.txt, that's all it does. It just, if I do ls to list of files, see there's test3 now, and it just creates the file. There's nothing in it. It's just there. So again, if we try to cat that one to see what's inside of it, there's nothing inside of it because it's empty. That's what touch does. Just literally just creates an empty file. So another one that's going to be useful is rm, which basically just removes or deletes files. So if I want to delete all my test files, I'll do rm, do test.txt, right? Now if I do ls, you can see here, test.txt is no longer there, right? I can do the same thing for test 2.txt, test.3. A cool trick I'll show you guys. So let's say I had like 100 files all called like test1, test2, test3, test blah, 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 all the way to 100, right? And I didn't want to do rm test on each one. If I knew that if all their file names follow the same format, that being it all starts with test, I can do rm test and then put a star, which basically tells it to match all characters after that. And then it's going to delete everything every file that starts with the word test, basically. So if I do this now, if I do ls now, it deleted the test2 and test3.txt because that matched that parameter. So yeah, that's what rm does. It just deletes files. So I'll clear that now. Another useful one is find. So find, it does exactly what you think it would. It finds files. Let's say you were in like some weird directory, you didn't know where something was, you want to look for a specific file, you use the find command to look for it. So as an example here, I'm going to create test.txt again, just by doing touch it, right? It's created there. But now I'm going to go into some random directory. So I'm going to go into like /temp, right? So notice how the prompt changed. I changed directory to /temp. I'm in now this random directory. Don't worry about what all this is. I'm in the directory that I'm not in the directory I was before, right? And let's say for some reason I didn't know where test.txt was, but I wanted to find where it was. I'll use find. So I'll type in find. Then you're going to type what directory you want to search for it in, right? So if you knew that it was in a specific directory, that helps a lot with the search because then you'd specify the directory. Because let's say I know it's in test.txt, I would do find/home/John, right? Because I know it's in that directory. And then I would do -name to specify the name of the file. So I'm looking for test.txt, right? And then there you go, it found it. There's actually two. There's another one that I had deep inside one of the directories. But it found the one that I was looking for, right? Now let's say I didn't know that it was in home/John, right? I had no idea where it was. I would do find/, which specifies the root directory, which means it's going to search through every file on the Linux system, basically, and every directory. It's going to look through everything that's trying to find your file. So I'll do find / -name test.txt. I notice I'm going to get a whole bunch of permission denied, and that's because I'm not the root user. So the root user is like the administrator version of basically like on Windows. So I'm only John. That's my user. So there's certain things I can't do if I'm not running as root, right? Or the administrator. So if I want to be able to run it as root so I don't get a whole bunch of permission denied, I would just use the sudo command. So sudo, basically any command in the Linux system, right? You could run as sudo. I would only recommend you do it if you have to. If you don't want to run like every command as sudo because you could end up messing something up that's like causes permanent damage because you don't always want to be root. But in this case, we're okay because we're just going to try to find the file. So we're going to use sudo so we don't get a whole bunch of permission denied because now we're going to be running this command as the root user. It's going to ask you for your password, just similar how it would be when like in Windows when it gets a prompt like, are you sure you want to run this as administrator? Similar deal. You can type your password, hit enter, and notice it found it. It also found a bunch of other test.txts that exist in somewhere deep inside the directories, but the one I care about, it found right here. So are there any questions on find or any of the previous commands? Okay, cool. Why did some files still get permission to sudo? That's a good point. So some of these even run as sudo will still give you permission denied because these are like specific process things. So like stuff in like /run and stuff like /proc, because they're like currently running processes, will still give you permission denied because if you try to access it, it's in like a very volatile state, and it won't let you like try to access it because it could cause like some sort of system failure or some sort of process to crash. So that's why some things, even run a sudo, will tell you like, don't go here, please stay away. This is like something that's vital to whatever process is currently running. So yeah, it's a good catch though, Alan. Why some of these are permission denied. Okay, cool. Any other questions? All right, awesome. Another very useful one of my favorite commands is the grep command. Actually, I'm going to CD back into home, John, just so I'm not in temp anymore. So we're back here. So the grep command will find, so similar to how find will find files, grep will find text inside of a file or files, right? So if I had, we're going to go ahead and nano on our test.txt, we're going to edit that, and we're going to type in hello, hi, what's up, random stuff, here, there, right? We're going to save this. We're going to cat that and make sure it's all there. Now let's say that this file is like thousands of lines long, right? Let's say it's a massive file, and we're trying to get specific text from that file. We're trying to figure out maybe if a specific string exists inside the file, or maybe we're just trying to figure out like what line number that string is at, so we can like edit it, stuff like that. Let's say for whatever reason we wanted to find a specific string inside the file. It may not sound something that could be useful, but trust me, it's going to be like when you come into like to hacking security, it's going to be a very, very useful tool. So let's say we wanted to find the word here, right? And let's say this is like theoretically like on line, 1,533 or something. I'm not going to like for testing demo purposes, I'm not going to create a file that big, but just pretend that we don't know where here is and we're trying to find it. So the command I would use to find that is grep. So if I do grep, right, and then you do the name or the word that you're looking for, the string you're looking for, you put it in quotes if you want, you don't have to. If you have spaces in the string, then you want to put it in double quotes, but it's always safe to put in double quotes anyway. So if I do grep, the word I'm looking for, and then the file I'm trying to look for it in, right? So notice it actually did a couple matches here because here appears in the word there and everywhere. So you can do, I believe, like strict search by maybe doing -F. I could be wrong. I am wrong. That's okay. You can look up the flag for that anyway. Grep is has so many flags for so many different unique things. It's like a super powerful tool. But yeah, it found the string. However, this doesn't tell us. This tells us that the string here exists inside this file, which can be useful. But let's say I want to find what line number it was at, right? So I can maybe go edit it or go look at it closer. There's a flag for that in grep, which is the -N flag, I believe. And then it tells you there. So here is on line 5. The word there is line 6. Everywhere is line 7. So that'll tell you the line number where it's at. So now you can like open it up and go to that line number and do whatever you want with it. So that's how grep is like. That's the very basics of grep. Super useful command that you'll be using a lot. Clear this. One thing I want to mention when it comes to, I would say, every single command in any Linux distro or any Linux OS, every command has a manual page, right? What a manual page is basically like it's like a help page, but like a much more detailed help page. So if I were to do like for cat, for example, if I do cat-h or cat-h or --help, depending on whatever the command is, it'll show you a help page, right? It'll show you some of the most common flags that it uses, right? And explains what it does, and then some examples as well. But the man page shows every single flag and also like much more detailed like examples and explanations of what all the flags do. So if the -h or the --help flag doesn't help you figure out what a command does, the man page is definitely will. So to figure out to find the man page for any command, you type man and then the command you want to know about. So if I want to do man cat, right, I want to learn more about the cat command. It'll open this sort of GUI here, and it'll basically have a description, concatenate files, and print on the standard output. And it'll show all the flags you can use now, and everything else, any other like author wrote it, reporting bugs, all that kind of stuff. So if I do the man page for grep, it's pretty big. It's got like a long description, but then it's got like a whole bunch of flags that you can use. That makes it like super powerful. You don't have to memorize any of this. I only have a few flags memorized that I use it for. You don't have to read all of this. Just if you're, again, you can use grep to find maybe specific stuff you're looking for within inside the man page to find like, oh, I wonder if grep can do this. I wonder if grep can look for, specific numbers or show lines before and after what it's found. You can look for it in the man page basically. So man page is super powerful for learning any Linux command. So any questions on that? All right, cool. So one last tool. It's not so much of a command, but it's a tool that I'll tell you guys about before we hop into the exercise. Is the pipe here. So pipe is used for sending the output of one command as input to the next. So a good example of this would be if we do ls here. So the test.txt, right? I'm going to cat this, see what's inside of it. We have what I had before. If I want to do, let's say I wanted to do something with this output, right? I don't want to just output test.txt. I want to do something to whatever it's outputting. So let's say it'd be longer to type, but I could pipe it to grep. So if I do grep cat test.txt, use the pipe, right? And then do grep and then do the word here, right? It's going to display exactly what it was before if I had done just grep here test.txt. It's the same exact deal, right? So what this is doing, right? It's catting test.txt, which is going to be this, right? And then it's going to pipe this with this thing. It's going to pipe the output of this command, which is this, into the input of the command following the pipe, which is grep. Which is why I noticed we didn't have to specify the file name here anymore, because it's taking input from cat.test.txt from the pipe. So that's what pipe does basically. If you're sending the output of whatever happens on the left as input to whatever happens on the right. Let me think of maybe a better example. There's a lot of things you can use it for. So I guess you could do, so if I did cat test.txt, if I pipe that through, there's a command called cut, which basically lets you if you have like some sort of, like a long string, or maybe like, let's say you had a long string in a file, right? And it was surrounded by brackets, and you only want the text that's inside the brackets. You can use the cut command. So actually, I'll show a good example of that. So we're gonna do nano on test. We're gonna rm test.txt to remove it. Then we're gonna recreate it using nano. So now it's empty. Let's say I want to do random text, right? And let's actually do a colon as a good delimiter. So we're gonna do colon here and do hello there, colon, and then a bunch of random stuff, right? So I'll save this, Control O to enter, Control X to exit. So now if I cat this, right? Now again, theoretically speaking, let's say this is like a super long line, a super long file, and we wanted to get whatever was in between these two colons here, right? We don't care about any of this garbage or any of this. We only want what's here. To do that, you can use cut. So if I do cat test.txt and pipe it to the command called cut, right? Now if I have to specify the -d flag for the delimiter, which basically the what boundaries are we going to cut. In our case, it's going to be the colon. So this could be like any character. If you had like, you know, maybe parentheses or a slash, for example. In our case, we have a colon. So we're going to do cut -d, and then in single quotes, we'll put the colon. And then we have to specify F to specify what specific field we want. So these are basically acting like boundaries, and it's splitting up into fields now. So now everything before this colon is field 1. Here up to the next colon is field 2, and this one here is field 3. Right? So if I did F1, it's going to print out the first field, which is everything up in here. If I did now F2, it's going to print the one in between, which is the one that we want. And if I wanted to print the third field, I can do F3, and it'll print this. So that's what cut does. But I was mainly showing that to show you the power of the pipe command, which basically is allowing you to cat the output of this into other commands. So any questions on cut, pipe, or any of the commands that we have here? Because if not, we're going to start into the over-the-wire challenge. Okay. So there's no questions, then for the exercise. So to practice our Linux skills, we're going to be completing the Bandit challenge from over the wire. If you don't know what over the wire is, it's basically it's a site that has a bunch of like challenges in it for learning pretty much any basic stuff. Like, it has a bunch of random challenges like security rate and stuff like that. But the one that we're going to be doing is called the Bandit challenge, which is specific for learning the very basics of the Linux command line. So if you go to this link here, which I will put in the chat. But if you go to that link, it'll show you this. You can read the beginner, you can read this starting up if you want. But what we're going to be doing is using SSH for this challenge. This challenge requires SSH, which for those who don't know is like it's a tool, comes pretty much I think pre-installed in almost all Linux distros, allows you to connect to other servers, remote servers. Basically, you SSH into another computer, and you have now a terminal on that other person's computer that you can type commands in. Okay, so I go back here. Challenge use SSH to log into the first challenge. So you're going to use this following command to log into the first challenge. If I go back here, you notice there's a lot of challenges. We're not going to complete all of these by today. I'm hoping to get through a few though, because the beginning ones are pretty easy. But you're basically going through, you're SSHing into the remote machine, and you're getting flags basically to complete each challenge. And that flag that you get is going to be used as a password to log into the next machine, and so on and so forth. So back to here, this is how you SSH into the first one. So if we open it back to our terminal here, everyone should probably have a terminal open right now and sort of following me along here. But we're going to do SSH, the command, and then bandit0, which is the username that we're logging into the machine as. Then you're going to do the @ symbol. And now we're going to type in the address of the remote server. It can be an IP address, or it could be a domain name like it shows here. So in this case, it's the domain name. We're going to do bandit.labs.over-the-wire. Yes, Windows Terminal works perfectly fine as long as it has SSH. That's all you need. So yeah, basically, if you have like maybe PuTTY or whatever, or the Windows Terminal, as long as it has SSH, you can SSH into this machine, you're good to go. So SSH into bandit.labs.over-the-wire.org, and then -P, which is going to be the port number. The default port number for SSH is 22. However, this server has it set up on 2220. So we have to specify the port number. So 2220, right? SSH in, it's going to ask you for the password. And then the password, which I believe is on the site, tells us, if we click on level 0, the password is bandit0. So we just type in bandit0. And notice how my prompt stays. It has like a little like welcome message for how to play and playing nice and all that. But my prompt changed now to bandit0 bandit. So we are now connected to a remote server, and we're logged in into their server through a terminal access. So if I do pwd now, it's no longer going to be /home/John. It's going to be /home/bandit0. Anyone have any questions? Is anyone not at this point yet? Let me know, and then I'll help you out.
I'm there, but what did you say the -P was for when you did the, does that mean port?
Yes. So SSH uses by default port 22. So if you were to not specify the -P2220, it would try to connect it on port 22. However, this specific server has it set up on port 2220 or 2220. So you have to specify the port number, because you notice that says here.
Is there a reason? Is there like a specific reason for that?
Literally, I don't know why they did it. It's just like random. They probably should have done port 22. It would have made more sense. But they just say here, the host which you need to connect to is this one on port 2220. I'm guessing it's because they can teach you how to use SSH and how to specify a specific port number if you need to. So I guess it's good to know, I would say. But 99% of the time, you're connecting on port 22, and you don't have to specify the -P flag. But yeah. Yeah, is anyone else, I guess, is anyone not at this point? That's a good point, Ben. Although I feel like they could, they're able to restrict access regardless of what port it's running on, but maybe it's so they can run this program on anyone's machine without using sudo. That's probably what it is. Okay, so everyone's at this point. I'm going to go through the first level with you guys, and then I'm gonna let you guys go at it, and then I'll be here for questions or if you get stuck. So once log in, go to the level 1 page to find out how to beat level 1. So we're gonna go to the left-hand bar here and go to level 1, or sorry, level 0 to level 1, because we're trying to go to level. Yeah, we're at level 0. We're trying to go to level 1. So the password for the next level is stored in a file called README, located in the home directory. Use this password to log into Bandit1 using SSH. Whenever you find a password for a level, use SSH on port 2220 to log into that level and continue the game. So it tells us that the password for the next level is stored in a file called README in the home directory. If I do pwd, I'm not in the home directory. I'm inside another directory inside the home directory. So I do ls right now. Okay, yeah, so it is actually inside of the README. So there's a file here called README. If I want to see the contents of that, I'd use a cat command. So cat and then README. The server might be a little slow for you guys right now. I'm guessing it's because a lot of people are connected to it at the moment. But yeah, you want to do cat README, and boom, we got the first flag or the first password for the next one. So what we want to do now is we're going to copy this. So make sure you guys copy it. And we're going to exit out of this SSH session and go on to the next one. So to do that, we're going to, once you found the password, you're going to type exit, and that'll exit you. You see it'll close the connection to that server. So now I'm back on my local machine, and I'm going to SSH now into Bandit1. Again, a very useful trick to know. If you don't feel like typing the whole SSH command again, you can do the up arrow on your keyboard to look at all the previous commands. So I can just keep typing the up arrow to look at all the past commands that I typed, so I don't have to retype everything. So I'm going to do the up arrow once to see my old command, the sh bandit01. I'm going to go all the way to bandit here, and I'm going to replace bandit0 now with bandit1, because now we're going to level 1. Everything else is going to stay the same. I'm going to hit enter. It's going to ask me for a password, and it's going to be this one here. So again, copy that. I'm going to paste it here. And boom, we're in. You can notice that we're in now. It says Bandit1. So that's the user that we're logged in as. And now, since now that we're in that one, we can now go to the next level, level 1 to level 2. The password for the next level is stored in a file called dash located in the home directory. So is everyone at Bandit1 right now? If you're not, let me know and I'll help guide you there. If you are there, keep going. Just start working on the levels. And if you have any questions, just let me know. But yeah, I'm gonna let you guys get to this because I believe that you guys working it on your own and like using, you know, the manual page and stuff like that is gonna be very useful to you. But I'm definitely here if you guys have any questions, if you guys get stuck at all. No, we're not gonna be doing anything else tonight. We're basically just doing over the wire. So yeah, if you've already done a bunch of these levels, then you're good to go. If you want to keep going on those levels, if you want to like start from level 22 and just keep going, you can. So I will stop sharing my screen. And then if you guys have any questions, you can put it in the chat or you can just speak up. Up to you.
You actually put your that slide that had all the codes on there?
All the commands?
Yeah, all the commands up.
Yeah, it's on Slack, but I can also just copy and paste them into the chat if you like.
Caitlin, you have to use your mouse and just like highlight it and copy paste. And, like do copy selection and then paste clipboard.
Yeah. Depending on what Linux you're using, it's a little different to copy. I always know that, you know, right clicking is the safest way to do it in Linux because sometimes it's like you have to do Shift Control C or just Control C or Shift Control V to paste. It's weird, but yeah, I would say right clicking and just copying is the safest bet. So I'll let you guys keep working on this until probably 7:45, or maybe 8, depending on what happens. But we'll say 7:45 for right now. So yeah, we'll work on to 7:45. Let me know if you guys have any questions.